Hey everyone. Thank you so much for being part of our virtual field trip series today with Dr. Biddis. My name is Ashley Lynn, and I'm the founder of Project Exchange, which is the organization bringing you these field trips today. Our mission is to help every student access a meaningful cross-cultural learning experience as part of their education. And so today, kind of leading our field trip is Dr. Biddis, who is a scientist at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital and an assistant professor at the Institute of Biomaterials and Biomedical Engineering at the University of Toronto. Dr. Biddis is the director of PEARL, also known as Possibility Engineering and Research Lab, which is an interdisciplinary team that designs and evaluates inclusive interactive media for children of all abilities to participate more meaningfully and enjoyably in therapy, social play, and in the music and arts. So without further ado, here's Dr. Biddis here to share her story on how culture, gender, and community identity has shaped her STEAM journey.
Hi, this is a real pleasure to get to talk to you guys today. So I thought I would start off with, and thank you, Ashley, for the introduction. That was very kind. I thought I would start off with just telling you a little bit about where I am now, and then we can talk a little bit about how I got here. As Ashley mentioned, I'm a scientist at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital. That's where I do most of my work. It's where my lab is located. And I'll just show you a picture if I can figure out how to share a screen. Let's see, here we go. This is Holland Bloorview right here. So it's a nice little hospital that's designed specifically for children. We have over 1,000 clients. We do about 52,000 outpatient visits per year. And it's a real sort of community. So there's an integrated school on site, which means that kids with and without disabilities can go to it. There's outpatient services for kids of diverse conditions, so cerebral palsy and spina bifida, autism, acquired brain injuries. And then there's also a hospital. There's some children with very profound disabilities that call Holland Bloorview their home. And then on the 4th floor, there's the Research Institute. And the nice thing about our Research Institute is that it has scientists from really diverse backgrounds. And so there's engineers, there's social scientists, there's psychologists, neuropsychologists. We have scientists who are working in the arts, in equity and diversity. So it's a really nice mix of people. And we all very much share the same vision of trying to improve opportunities for kids with disabilities. So the work that I do by nature is very, very interdisciplinary. And so I've been here about since 2004. First as a PhD student, and then starting in 2008 as a scientist. And very early on, I learned that it was so important to talk with people, to talk with the clinicians who are working on the front lines, to talk with clients and with families to really understand what the challenges are. And as an engineer, I always say that we're great at solving problems, but we don't always know what the problem is. And so it's in having those conversations that we really sort of define the problem, and then we can use engineering skills combined with a range of other disciplines to solve those sorts of problems. And so I wanted to share a couple of videos today of some of the technologies that we've developed. Again, so our vision is really to use interactive tech media and create interactive media that enhances opportunities for kids of all abilities. So the first project I wanted to share is called ScreenPlay. And basically it literally started in an elevator. It was one of these elevator conversations where a clinician, I was speaking with a clinician, and she was telling me about the challenges that they were having in the waiting room because there were no toys. So a lot of the time when you go into sort of doctor's offices and things like that, you'll see some, you know, books and toys and various things for kids to play with. And initially we had that at Holland Bloorview as well, but there was real challenges in terms of the risk for infection spread. So many of the kids who come here can be very vulnerable even to the common cold, so that could wind them up in the hospital. And so they really wanted to eliminate any touch surfaces because it's really difficult to keep those toys and books and things like that clean. And the other problem was that those toys and books were not always accessible for all of the kids. And so we have kids coming who are sort of typically developing and running around like crazy. But then we also have kids coming who are in wheelchairs. We have kids coming who can move their arms very well. And we have kids coming who have very little movement in their arms and hands. And so we wanted to be very inclusive. And so I'll show you a video now of the solution that we came up with.
ScreenPlay was designed to transform the clinic waiting space into a place of delight and exploration. It enables kids, youth, parents, and staff of all abilities to create beautiful projections together on a wall-sized screen by moving around on the floor in front of it. 100 floor sensors make this experience possible, detecting the positions of people as they move around the floor. Signals from floor sensors are sent to a computer through over 1 kilometer of wires hidden underneath a colorful carpet. Waiting for doctor's appointments can be a difficult experience for kids and their families. Conventional toys that you sometimes see in waiting rooms can spread germs and may not always be accessible to children with disabilities. So we're replacing toys with an interactive media experience. ScreenPlay represents the spirit of Holland Bloorview and the vision of Dr. Tammy Kagan-Kushner, a beloved pediatrician who passed away in 2008 and to whom the installation is dedicated. It's inclusive, it's collaborative, and a little bit magical. ScreenPlay was designed for our community, by our community, with support from our families, clinicians, researchers, designers, senior management, building services, and our partners at the Ontario College of Arts and Design University. Whether on foot or in a wheelchair, the result is a series of exciting projections that slowly grow and evolve as you explore the space. Now waiting families can build a garden or grow a tree in an environment that celebrates abilities, community, and well-being. ScreenPlay will continue to evolve as we add to the experience with new projections and images, with the inclusion of music and sound, and through the creative energy of a passionate and innovative community working together to provide the best possible care and opportunities for kids with disabilities. To learn more about ScreenPlay and Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital, please visit our website, www.hollandbloorview.ca.
Okay, so that was just ScreenPlay. And so it was a super fun project. And from there, we also evaluated to see whether or not it actually impacted children's waiting experiences. And so we ran a study with 310 kids and their caregivers who came and spent 10 minutes prior to their appointment in the waiting space. And we measured their anxiety when they first arrived and when after the 10-minute period. And we compared it to kids who were waiting without ScreenPlay and kids who were waiting watching a nature video. And we found that only in the case of ScreenPlay did kids' anxiety levels go down, which we thought made sense because it was providing kids with sort of a more natural environment where they could explore and where they could play, which is much, more in line with kids' everyday activities. And what was really nice was that we saw, these play activities for kids who were maybe immobile in wheelchairs as well. So everybody's, participation in play and exploration increased regardless of their level of disability, which was really what we were trying to accomplish. And so anyway, so that was one project, and it was really neat. We worked with design students, we worked with the building services of the hospital, we worked with clinicians and families, and everybody sort of had a say in the development of the solution. And I think it was in that collaboration that we could come up with the solution that has worked and has been working for many years. So just to share another technology that we developed, and then we can start talking a little bit more about sort of my journey of how I got here. So this one is called Botleys Bootle Blast. And so it's a movement tracking video game that we designed to make participating in boring therapy exercises a little bit more fun for children, particularly at home. So as you all know, kids are really busy these days, and it's really difficult to find the time to do sort of boring therapy exercises. And so we wanted to put this into a video game that would be motivating and multiplayer for kids. So I've got a little video that I can show you of the system, and then we can talk about it a little bit. There we go. And I can play. And so Bootle Blast we designed with, again, a very interdisciplinary group of people, game designers, composers, as 13 mini games that kids play in order to practice their therapy exercises. And all of these games are connected in sort of a narrative that rewards kids for long-term play. The game's also unique in that it uses mixed reality, so you can use real life objects to play the games, and this helps with improving fine motor skills and development. So that was just a quick little video. And so I think Bootle Blast really sort of gets into sort of, what I love about my job sort of thing right now. And it is this idea of, the diversity of people that we get to work with. And the diversity of skills and understanding it requires. So I find that I'm always learning new things, sort of things. So, the people that I work with, like I said, we work with game developers, we work with software engineers, with psychologists, with music composers, and especially with the kids and the families. It's really meaningful to share and learn from their experiences and to play test with the games to see what works and what doesn't work. And it's really interesting to try to integrate all of those perspectives into a design solution. So another thing I really love is just sort of the solving problems, because that's something that I enjoy doing. But I love how can the creativity of it, sort of thing. And so when I was starting off, when I was trying to decide what to study in university, I mean, I was going from sort of creative writing to maybe studying music to law to engineering. Like there really wasn't anything that I wouldn't have wanted to learn more about or to study, sort of thing. And I chose engineering probably because I felt like it had the most to teach me. And it was the sort of thing that, you know, when finding a job, sort of thing, when looking for a job, I for a while, I felt like I had to leave those other parts behind, sort of like those creative parts, the part of me that loved and enjoyed playing music and all that sort of stuff. But in my job now, I find that I get to integrate all of that sort of thing. So it allows for a great deal of creativity, which I really, really enjoy. So that's where I am right now. And so I thought that I'll talk a little bit about my journey getting here, sort of thing. So as the bio said, I started off in mechanical engineering. I actually went to an all-girls high school, sort of thing. So I went from this like all-girls environment into mechanical engineering, which was almost all boys, sort of thing. And I've got to say I didn't take any notice of it, sort of thing. I never encountered any sort of barriers owing to my gender or anything like that. So I was very fortunate that way. Again, I don't know why I went into mechanical engineering specifically. I think I probably just followed my brother there. My brother went into mechanical engineering. I was considering other sort of streams, and he convinced me into mechanical. Probably wasn't the right choice for me. I think I would have probably enjoyed sort of something that was a broader, but anyways, it landed me here. So it doesn't really matter. So while in engineering, I have to say there was a few sort of formative experiences that kind of got me onto this path. So one was a guest lecture that we had from an engineer who was working in a hospital. And that really opened my eyes to how I could use engineering to impact people's health. And it was like a light bulb that went off, and it was like, you know, it gave me clarity in terms of the direction that I wanted to take my studies, because I wasn't interested in designing cars or designing heating and ventilation systems, sort of thing. And I was at a juncture where I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this engineering degree once I got it. And so learning about these health applications was really, really exciting to me. And another experience I had was we went on a tour of Holland Bloorview, which wasn't called Holland Bloorview back then, but we went on a tour of this children's hospital, and I met with engineers who were designing solutions to help kids communicate, help kids engage with the world. And again, it was really, really exciting to me, sort of thing. And so I think that was kind of what got me on the path that, you know, winded me up here. Now, that being said, it wasn't a straight road, sort of thing. So in fourth year of my university, again, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was approached by a professor to do some research in microfluidics, and not knowing what else to do, I thought, hey, that sounds pretty cool. It was again for a health application. And so I worked in a lab-like setting, and discovered that it was interesting, but it wasn't quite for me. It wasn't this, I really enjoyed the interactions with people, the learning and designing and solving problems that could be implemented, with solutions that could be implemented and translated into people's hands really, really quickly in the short term, as opposed to, making scientific discoveries that would impact people 50 years from now, which is also super important, but it wasn't as exciting to me. So, and then after that, for my PhD, I did some work in prosthetics and electroactive polymers here at Holland Bloorview. And from there, I wound up designing this interactive media really in response to the needs of kids and families. So I know this is a sort of a talk about diversity and equity and things like that. And so I wanted to touch on that. And I have to say that, again, like I said before, I never felt any barriers in terms of being a woman or anything like that, all through my career, up until the point that I had children. And at that point, I started to feel, that there were significant challenges that were sort of introduced. It's difficult sort of thing once you have children, because you do feel very much like you're being torn in many directions, and you want to do it all, but you can't do it all, sort of thing. And you have to make choices, and you have to give up things, sort of thing. So, I don't go to conferences very much. I don't give presentations that are in the evenings or attend events that are on weekends, because that's my family time. And that's a choice that I've made, and different people make different choices, but that was something that I was comfortable with. But during work hours, my work gets my full attention and devotion, sort of thing. And then during family hours, my family gets my whole attention and devotion. And I don't think you ever feel like you quite balance it properly, but you can get to a place where you feel like you're meaningfully contributing and advancing your career while still being a good mom at home, sort of thing. But definitely, I think that there needs to be more discussion and more advocacy for women who are going into careers in STEM and also wanting to have a family, and to pave the way for success. And that's something that I'm really happy to talk about as well. So that's pretty much all that I really wanted to say. And I feel really weird just sort of talking at my computer screen. So maybe we can open it up for questions, because that's always more interesting, and I can make sure that I'm touching on the stuff that's really interesting to you.
Awesome. I think it would be great if we open it up for questions. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to type it in the chat box in Zoom, and we will answer all questions that come in. Okay. Yeah, and as people are thinking of their questions, I did have one to just start out with. And that's what are some of the biggest challenges that you face kind of working in an interdisciplinary team, and what are some ways that you've kind of overcome those challenges?
Let's see. I don't know that I would call them challenges so much. I mean, I think it's all about open communication, sort of thing. I think it's about respecting people and making people feel appreciated for the values that and the knowledge that they bring to the team. And and always keeping an open mind, sort of thing, that people think differently, and it's wonderful, sort of thing. And it's in having these conversations and discussions, and these sort of like, I don't understand what you're talking about right now, like what, you know, that you come to this much more enlightened place where you can really be creative and where you can really come up with amazing solutions, sort of thing. And so I think it's having that openness and being very confident and comfortable in what you know and what you don't know. And that's okay, sort of thing. You don't have to know everything. That's why you have a team of other people to contribute.
We did have one question come in from Ella Jackson, and her question is, what's your favorite thing about your job?
Working with the kids. The kids are amazing, sort of thing. They're just energetic, full of optimism, full of resilience. And so I love working with the kids. I love testing out sort of games and stuff, and seeing how they respond and how they react. And so that is super meaningful. And the impact that we have on some of the families, you know, is really, really meaningful. So that's sort of like the one main thing. And then on the day-to-day, I have an amazing team. Like the people that I work with are just awesome, sort of things. So we have a really fun and creative games developer. We have a software engineer that have been with me for a long, long time. The students that I work with always bring so much excitement and passion to their research, and so I really enjoy working with them as well. And of course, the other scientists who are coming from different walks of life. And then I love, it's constant. I'm constantly learning, and I'm constantly being challenged, sort of thing. You know, like I never thought that I would be working alongside a music composer, sort of thing. But here I am, sort of thing. So you just never, every day come into the office, I never quite know what where the day's going to lead, sort of thing. And so I really enjoy that aspect.
All right, awesome. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to put it in the chat and we will answer them. But in the meantime, if no one puts a question in the next few minutes, we're just going to end with one last question, which is, what piece of advice would you, do you wish you would have known when you were in middle or high school?
High school. There's a lot that I wish I had known. So I think you guys are doing great, because you're actually taking advantage of opportunities like this to sort of talk to people and to learn what people do. I mean, I had no idea what people did, sort of thing. Like I really didn't know much beyond my immediate sort of you know, day to day of the professions that I encountered, sort of thing. And so I think opening yourself up to these experiences, these learning experiences, is amazing. To try to find out all of the different paths that you can take. Another piece of advice I would give is to sort of, I mean, you can't make every decision only with your heart, sort of thing. You have to consider practical issues as well. But I do think that if you listen to sort of your gut feelings in terms of what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy, you will eventually wind up somewhere where you're doing something that you enjoy, sort of thing, if that makes sense. And that can be different from what you're good at, sort of thing. So engineering was not necessarily what came naturally to me, sort of thing. I was much like, it wasn't that I wasn't, like, I was a strong student in sort of the maths and sciences, but I had to work at it, sort of thing. I enjoyed it as in it was interesting, sort of thing. I was learning a lot, but, you know, I wouldn't go home and code video games for fun, sort of thing. Like, that's not what I was doing, sort of thing. I was reading Jane Austen. Like, I mean, it was, and so, you know, what, you know, but what you feel like you're strong in, it doesn't necessarily need to be the same as what you enjoy, and vice versa, sort of thing. Like, so putting yourself out there to new challenges and not being afraid to fail, knowing that, you know, there's the most learning that you ever going to do is when you're struggling a little bit, when you're you know, when you do feel like you're failing a little bit. And on that note as well, I wish I went through many years feeling like I wasn't good enough, that I, you know, wasn't smart enough, that there were other people knew what they were doing and I didn't know what I was doing, and that there was something wrong with me. And that's not true. Everybody's going around not knowing what they're doing. It's just, you know, some people present more confidently than other people do. And so I think, you know, it took many years before I became comfortable in who I was and what I was good at and what I knew and what I didn't know, and that's okay, sort of thing. I don't need to know everything. And so I think sometimes we can be our own sort of our worst enemies in terms of not putting ourselves out there, or not you know, taking up a challenge because of our own insecurities, or wanting it to be absolutely perfect when it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect. And we can always reach out to get the supports that we need along the way. So I think that's another thing that I think it's important to know, sort of when you're in sort of this stage of life, when you're making all these decisions that, you know, feel like they're the sort of life-turning decision. And also, you're all very young, and so you have a lot of time to learn and to change your mind and to experience something and then take another route and stuff like that. And so I think that's important to keep in context as well. Not to put so much pressure on yourselves.
Okay, thank you so much for those amazing words of advice, and just for sharing your story with us today on the virtual field trip.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yes, of course. And for all the attendees, we will be just sharing follow-up resources and more material through email, so definitely keep an eye out for that. But thanks again, Dr. Biddis.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, bye.
Bye.